Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michelle Dunnick, Director of Events and Investor Relations at United Way of Southeast Louisiana. United Way of Southeast Louisiana, together with the Louisiana Hospitality Foundation and Entertree Corporation, are proud to support Phase 2 of the Hospitality Cares Pandemic Relief Program, which provides legal support and counseling services in partnerships with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services and Loyola Center for Counseling and Education. Thank you for joining us today. I will now turn it over to the staff attorneys, Constance and Paul at SLLS. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we're really excited to be here today. You may recognize me from other Know Your Rights we've put on with unemployment and benefits, and we try to bring relevant questions that you have. Last we did the second stimulus, and we're excited to bring tax law and relevant questions you have with you today. Again, I'm a staff attorney with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services in the Employment and Benefits Unit, and we're partnered with United Way Southeast Louisiana and the Hospitality Foundation. And today we have an attorney in my unit who I'm very excited to have speak today. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Paul Tuttle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Tuttle. I'm the director of the Low Income Taxpayers Clinic here at Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. We help people that have federal tax issues. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about us later and how to get in touch with us if you do have a problem with the IRS. But I do want to go ahead with my presentation. We're going to be talking about tax issues now that we're in the tax filing season. And we're also going to be talking about the related issue of stimulus funds that were distributed last year by the federal government for pandemic related expenses. We're going to talk a little bit about that because the IRS was actually in charge of distributing those funds. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And this PowerPoint presentation will be available on the United Way website if you want to refer back to it later. So what we're going to talk about today are the stimulus or EIC payments. Those are the same, two names for the same things. EIC stands for Economic Impact Payments. I'm sorry, that should be an EIP. Stimulus or EIP payments. We're also going to talk about unemployment benefits because unfortunately last year a lot of people lost their jobs or were put on furlough due to the pandemic, and they may have received unemployment benefits, and that does have tax implications that you should know about. Then we're going to talk a little bit about tax preparers, how to find a good tax preparer, and what kind of tax preparer to stay away from. And the reason I'm throwing this in is because this time of year, there's a lot of commercials and a lot of tax shops opening up, wanting to help you with your tax returns. And unfortunately, a lot of them might not be legitimate, might not do a good job, might get you into trouble. So this is, I want to tell you a little bit about how to spot problem tax preparers and avoid them. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the free help with filing tax returns, which I know a lot of people might need if they can't afford to go to a tax preparer. Now, our tax clinic is not a tax preparation service, and we do not file electronic returns for the current year. But luckily, there are other groups out there that help, including United Way. So I'm going to give you some information about them. All right, so economic impact payments. Everybody, I've had lots and lots of questions and inquiries about this all last year, and right now the government is giving out money in order to help people during this trying times. Unfortunately, there were a lot of problems with the rollout, which is kind of be expected. This is a brand new program. It was huge. It had to be done quickly, and so a lot of people got left out. Who was eligible? Well, most adult citizens were eligible. If you were a citizen and you were over the age of 18 and not being claimed as a dependent by someone else, you were supposed to get some money. And if you had dependents, you were supposed to get some money for them. So the benefit, and it's also for, I wouldn't say low income, but for most of middle Americans and low income Americans, the higher income your household had, the less stimulus payments you would have received. And there were 2 rounds of payments in 2020, one, I believe, in April, or started in April, and then one shortly at the end of the year, shortly before the holidays, they approved another round of payments that went out. So the payments each time were $1,200 for each individual and $600 for each dependent that was in the household and counted in the household. So that was a pretty good chunk of change. So how were the payments given out? Well, they were given out in various ways. If you filed a 2018 or 2019 tax return, like for example, you filed 2018 but not 2019, they would have used your 2018 return to figure out who was in your household and how much money you should get, and they would have sent the money to that address that was listed on that return. And if you had signed up to get a refund directly deposited in a bank account, they would have used that bank account. So for people who did not file tax returns, a lot of people receive SSI or veterans benefits. They don't get enough income to have to file a tax return, so they don't. Those people were eventually supposed to get their benefits in their same way that they received their public benefits. So if you had an account where your SSI went, then the stimulus fund should have gone to that account. So what about people who are not getting public benefits, but haven't filed a tax return in a long time, maybe because they don't make enough money? Well, those people were supposed to go to the IRS website, irs.gov, and there was a portal right there on the first page when you call up that website that you were supposed to enter your information. It would have been your name and address, how many dependents you had, and whether you had any banking info that you wanted to give for the stimulus payments to be given. So later on in the year, a lot of people received their money by filing what was called the non-filers portal. If you didn't have a checking account, some people received their debit cards in a plain white envelope, their money on a debit card. And some people threw them away because it came in a plain white envelope. It didn't really explain what it was. And so some people thought it was junk mail or something and they threw it away, which was unfortunate. So like I said, a lot of people did not receive their stimulus payments, and a lot of people called me, and we figured out that there was a few reasons why this was happening. Often you might have been claimed on someone else's return as a dependent and didn't know it. This might have been a family member who maybe has been claiming you for years and you didn't know it. It could have been someone who stole your identity through computer fraud or something like that and has filed a false tax return using you as a dependent. Or you might have been included in a household. You know, maybe you temporarily stayed with someone in 2020. You didn't really think that you were dependent and that you only lived there for a little while, but the person at the household claimed you anyway. Some people did file a 2018 and 2019 return, and they got what's called a refund anticipation loan. And this is basically money that tax preparers will give you right away. They'll say, hey, we did your tax return. It looks like you're supposed to get a $1,000 refund. You know what? We'll give you $1,000 right now, even before we file your return and you receive your refund. I know you want your money now, so we're going to give it to you right now. But what we're going to do is make you sign a loan paper saying that we're loaning you $1,000 and that when we get the refund, that will pay off the loan. So we get the refund. And they charge you fees for this, so you don't get the entire refund. But a lot of people do this. And what the tax preparer does in that situation is he sets up a temporary bank account to receive your refund, but the tax preparer is the one that has access to it. So if you did this in 2018 or 2019, the government looked at those returns, saw that bank information, and sent the money to that tax preparer's bank account. So if you think this might have happened to you, you want to contact the tax preparer and say, hey, I think you have my money, you need to give it to me. Also, if you call the IRS, they may give you the name of the bank that they sent the money to, and you can contact the bank directly and say, hey, the stimulus funds were not meant for this tax preparer, but for me. If either one of those people do not help you, then you might be looking at having to file a small claims lawsuit in civil court against them or something like that. Another problem was people that were divorced or separated in 2020. Say, for example, they filed a 2019 return and then they separated soon after that. Maybe the husband has control of the bank account that was on the tax return. So the husband receives the money, but he refuses to share it with the wife. We saw a lot of problems like that. And lastly, if you were not able to get into the non-filers portal, or if you didn't know about it, or didn't enter your information correctly, you might not have gotten a stimulus fund because the IRS would not know where you were and how to get the money to you. So they might not have sent it out at all. So those were the most common problems that we saw. And of course, people that have those problems want to know, what can I do? Well, right now, I'm advising people to file a 2020 tax return. You file your tax return the year after the year. So right now, we're filing our 2020 tax returns. The IRS is supposed to start processing these returns starting tomorrow. And you want to file electronically because right now, the IRS was closed down for a while because of the pandemic, and apparently they still have truckloads and truckloads of mail that they're going through. So you don't want to mail in a paper return. If you want quick service, you want to electronically file it. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that the EIP was actually an advance credit on your 2020 return, meaning it was a tax credit. And usually you have to file a return and claim your credit, and then they pay it to you as a refund. But this, it was kind of special. They gave it to you before you even filed the return. So if you have not received your EIP that you think you should have, either for yourself or for your dependents, you can claim that refund now on the 2020 return. There's a new line on the 1040 return that asks about the EIP and what credits you're claiming. And if all goes as you would want it to, that money would come to you as a tax refund fairly soon. So you can do this even if you didn't work in 2020 or you didn't make enough money to file, or you usually don't file. If you're on SSI and you didn't get your money and you usually don't file a return, this might be the one year that you want to file a return just to claim those stimulus credits. And if you're going to a tax preparer, you might have to explain that to them, and so they're going to say, hey, you don't need to file, you didn't make enough money. You say, well, I didn't get my stimulus payments and I need to claim those credits now. Also, if your claim for a refund is denied by the IRS, say you electronically file your return, you claim the credits, and then you get a letter from the IRS saying, no, we already paid this out, or we think you're a dependent of someone else, or some other reason. You then have 30 days to appeal that decision, and you can start, you'll have a caseworker assigned to your case at the IRS, and you can submit them evidence to show that you were eligible for it and you should have gotten it. Let's just say, for example, you were claimed by a dependent by someone else and you weren't living with them last year and they didn't support you. You would be able to give the IRS evidence of where you lived last year, like letters or leases or bills or things like that, and say, I was not part of that household. This is where I was living and I was supporting myself. And if you win the appeal, then you would get the money then. So this gives you an avenue not only to claim the refund, but also to contest a decision if someone else got it that shouldn't have gotten it. So I'm going to switch over now to unemployment compensation benefits or unemployment benefits. This is another big topic last year, and I had a lot of questions about it. Say that you were laid off or furloughed in 2020 and you were eligible to receive benefits. The federal government actually added on to the usual state unemployment benefits, and you might have received more money than you usually would have from the state. Well, let me just tell you that unemployment benefits are taxable income, just like if you got wages. It's not treated differently from wages or anything like that. It's considered income, it's considered taxable income, and you got to report it on your tax return. You can choose to have federal and state taxes deducted from your unemployment benefits as you receive them, so you don't owe anything at the end of the year. And some people do this and some people don't. Some people think that they need all the money and they can't afford to have anything taken out. Well, what that means is that you're gonna, you might owe some tax on that unemployment benefits when you file your return. So the agency that's in charge of handing out unemployment benefits in Louisiana is the Louisiana Workforce Commission. And they should be sending you, or maybe have already sent you, what's called a 1099. And this is similar to a W-2 that you would get from a employer. A 1099 says how much they paid you that year so that you can report it on your tax return. If you haven't gotten your 1099, but you know you got benefits last year, then you're just going to have to go through your bank records or your records that you have and figure out how much you received so that you can report it. Just because you didn't receive the 1099 doesn't excuse you from reporting it. So see, a lot of people think it's kind of unfair that you're getting money because you have no job and no income, and then you have to pay taxes on it. But unfortunately, that's the situation. Fortunately, there are some alternatives if you can't afford to pay those taxes. And one thing I don't advise people to do is not file. There is no advantage to not filing the return. There are only disadvantages. If you don't file on time, you get a penalty just for not filing on time, and you're going to start adding interest on that penalty. So you're just going to owe more than you would have if you had filed on time. There's also a penalty for not paying on time, but if you get into a collection alternative with the IRS right away, then you wouldn't have to pay that penalty either. So if you do a return and you owe money, you might as well face the music and file it, because there's no advantage to not filing it. And you might be pleasantly surprised to learn that there are other credits or deductions that might cover your liability. The earned income tax credit, the extra child care credit, education credits, and maybe even the stimulus funds. If they say, oh yeah, we need to give you your stimulus funds, you could probably choose to have that cover your tax liability if you have any. So what if you file and you do owe money and you don't have anything to pay? Well, the IRS will want you to establish a monthly payment plan, and this is for all liability with the IRS. They allow you up to a 10-year repayment plan. So if it's not too much, you can usually get an affordable payment plan. If you can't afford to pay anything right now, if you're really in dire straits and you have a lot of bills and really can't afford to pay the IRS, you can request something called currently not collectible status, or CNC status, with the IRS. And you have to send them your financial information, explain to them why you can't make payments right now. But if they put you in that status, they will not try to collect from you. It doesn't get rid of the debt, though, and interest will still accrue, but they will not actively try to seize bank accounts or garnish your wages or anything like that. So that's one alternative if you're really in a bad situation and can't afford to pay. So I advise people in that situation still file the return, get it assessed, and then call in and get your currently not collectible status. And that should cover you until things improve, you get a job, and are able to start making payments. Okay, so I've been talking about going to tax preparers. And there are a lot of tax preparers out there right now. And a lot of them are kind of fly-by-night operations. They set up shop in an abandoned, or not abandoned, but empty storefront. They're only there during the filing season, and then they close down again. This can be a disadvantage if you have a problem afterwards and you can't go back to the person that prepared your return and the telephone line is dead. So you generally want to go to an outfit that is around all year long and you know is a company that you can get in touch with if you have any problems. So generally what bad tax, well, let me also say this, that there is no accreditation program, nothing that anyone has to do in order to call themselves a tax preparer in Louisiana. You can hang out a sign saying you're a tax preparer and go into business without doing anything else. And so there's a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing, or know what they're doing and it's fraudulent. And what a lot of fraudulent tax preparers are doing is putting false information on your return so that they can collect an extra large earned income tax credit. And the way they do this is they put false income information, like say that you have a business that you don't really have, or they might claim dependents that didn't really live with you or weren't supported by you. And they do this so that they can get a large EITC refund. And of course, the tax preparer is going to take a big chunk of that. But it can be very tempting for people to say, okay, if I file this, I'll get a big refund. I don't have to pay anything up front. I don't have to pay the tax preparer. It's very tempting. The problem is that when the IRS audits the return, you are the one that's going to pay the price. Saying that somebody else prepared the return does not help you. You are supposed to review and okay your return before it's sent in, and the IRS is going to assume that you did that. You are the one that's going to have to be audited, and you are the one that's going to have to pay back a refund if you weren't supposed to get it. This type of fraudulent return can also hurt you in other ways if you're getting public benefits like Medicare, Medicaid, Section 8 housing, food stamps. Because for those benefits, you're probably signing paperwork saying that you don't have income or very low income. And if you have a tax return that says you have your own business and you're making a lot of money with it, then that contradicts what you told the public agency. The public agency can then come back after you, evict you from your home, or ask you to repay, SSI or food stamp benefits or Medicare benefits or Medicaid benefits that you got. So doing a return like this can really mess you up. And so I advise you not to do it. And even sometimes, even if you don't actively okay a file with false information on it, the tax preparer may just steal your identity and file a return on their own and get their own refund. And then you find out years later that that's what happened. So you really got to watch out for tax preparers, and here's some ways to look out for the best ones. If the tax preparer does any of these things, then you probably don't want to use them. They should not charge you a percentage of the refund as a fee, like say, oh, I'm going to take 30% of your refund or 50% of your refund. That's actually illegal. They should be looking at the form and the information that you have and figuring how difficult it is to do the return and giving you a set fee for doing that return. Because if they do a percentage, then that gives them an incentive to put false information and bump up the refund so they can get more money. So they shouldn't be doing that. If a tax preparer doesn't ask you for any documentation, they don't care that you have W-2s or 1099s or anything else, mortgage interest statements. If they don't ask you for that information, then that's a really bad sign, because obviously they're just making up whatever they want to and putting it on your return. These same people may ask you to sign a blank or incomplete return, which you shouldn't do, because like I said earlier, you're going to be responsible for what's on that return. And with electronic filing, what they do is get you to sign a separate document saying that they have permission to submit your return. In that situation, you should not sign that document until you've seen the return that they're going to file. Make sure the information is correct. If something doesn't look right, ask questions. If they don't answer your questions satisfactorily, then you should take that return and leave. But if you end up reviewing the return and it's okay, then you can go ahead and sign that authorization, but you shouldn't sign that before you see the return. Also, the tax preparer is supposed to have their own account with the IRS that they're submitting the returns with, and they're supposed to sign it with you. In other words, they're supposed to take responsibility for doing that return. So if they don't want to sign it, or if they want to use some free filing online thing to submit your return instead of their own account, that's also another danger sign. They're basically saying, I don't want to be known that I had anything to do with this return, which is a bad sign, right? And then lastly, sometimes preparers want you to okay having them put your refund in their account, and then they'll pay the money to you. There's really no reason to do this unless you're getting that anticipation loan in which you're getting the money right away. I always advise my clients, if they can wait, they should wait, because you'll get more money, and you'll also get it directly sent to you, which means that there's less chance that somebody will be stealing it from you. So, you know, if you do want to go ahead with that refund anticipation loan, then this is what you're going to do. But, you know, be aware that the money you're getting is all the money you're probably going to get, and the rest of the refund is going to go to the tax preparer. So what if you can't even afford a tax preparer? Well, there's several ways that you can do a return. If you have a computer and the internet and you think you can handle it, you can actually file your own return for free at the IRS website, www.irs.gov. As soon as you get on their home page, there'll be some buttons you can press to file a return. And if you're low income, you're supposed to be able to file for free. You might have to press a few more buttons and you might have to look around, but you should be able to file for free if you're low income or have no income. Certified tax preparers, these are tax preparers that have been certified by the IRS as being good tax preparers, are also listed on this website. So you might want to look for anybody that you're considering using on the website to see if they're certified. And of course, the Better Business Bureau has information on complaints that people have sent in about certain companies. So you might want to check their website, see if there's any complaints about the person that you're thinking of using. Sometimes attorneys prepare returns, and you can check the Louisiana State Bar Association website right there. Make sure they're in good standing. There's a list of attorneys and whether they're in good standing or not. If they're not in good standing, then that's probably a bad sign and you probably don't want to use them. So what if you don't have the ability to file your own taxes? Well, fortunately, there are groups out there that are helping people, low-income people, file their tax returns. The AARP provides help for taxpayers 60 and older, and there's the number and the website for them. And a bigger program is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistant Program, or VITA. You might have heard about them. They usually have a big event every year in the Superdome or over at Xavier University, in which they have people come and they give out prizes and stuff like that, and they actually try to do hundreds and hundreds of tax returns that day right there at the facility. They probably won't be able to do that this year. So what they're doing is they're refiguring the way they do their work. A lot of times you'll drop off your information. I know I just told you not to do that, but drop off the information, they'll prepare a return, and then they'll get back in touch with you to go over it and answer any questions and have you okay it to be filed. The way you can make sure that you're with a VITA program is to call the 1-800 number right there, 1-800-906-9887. And they will give you information about VITA programs around you, because there are different groups that do it. Sometimes the law schools do it. Sometimes other community groups help out. So there's different groups that are doing this. Make sure that you get in touch with somebody near you that's part of the VITA program. And it's okay to drop off the information. What they're trying to do is do this safely without a lot of in-person indoor meetings. They'll prepare the return with the information that you receive, and then the preparer will call you, maybe meet with you by Zoom or some other method in order to go over the return when they prepare it. So remember to tell these guys, if you have not received your stimulus funds, that needs to be included on the 2020 return. So what does our tax clinic do? Well, like I said, we do not file current year returns. That's why I gave you the information for VITA. They're a very valuable partner to us. We try to give out their information as much as possible. So what do we do? Well, we help people who have federal tax liability that they can't afford to pay. The IRS is sending you collection notices. We help you if you're being audited. You've already filed a return and the IRS has denied something or said that they want more information. That means you're being audited, and we help people with that. So for example, if you file your 2020 return and they refuse to give you the stimulus credits and you think that you're eligible for it, that would be the time to call us. But pay attention to any appeal deadlines that you have, because it takes a while for us to get on the case. So you might have to appeal first and then give us a call. People who are asking for injured or innocent spouse relief, say that you're divorced or separated and find out all of a sudden that your spouse had tax liability that you didn't know anything about. This might be something that you might want to pursue. People who have been the victims of ID theft and have had returns filed under their name without their permission. So that's a small sample of some of the things that we do, but basically we help some people who have an active issue with the IRS. And unlike the rest of Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, the nonprofit law firm that I work with, I help people throughout the state of Louisiana. So anyone living anywhere in the state, Shreveport, Monroe, can use our services, even though the rest of the firm is basically the New Orleans area. We are a statewide project. So if you know somebody else in another part of the state, you can refer them to us for these kind of issues. My intake paralegal, her name is Lynette Tillis. We have a toll-free number that's right there. You can call her directly at that extension and tell her that you have a federal tax issue. And she will go through the income eligibility guidelines and create a file for you if you are eligible for our services. You can also apply on our website, SLLS.org. You can electronically submit an application for help there. Right now, we do not have walk-in clients coming into our office. We are located in New Orleans at 1340 Poydras Street, Suite 600. But right now, we do not have walk-in clients coming in. So give us a call or use our website. We have been communicating with our clients by fax and email and phone, and it's been working pretty well. But we do want everyone to be safe, so we don't want people to congregate in our office at this point. So that's about all the information I have. I don't know if people want to send any questions in through the chat. I can try to answer them now. Or if Michelle has any other information that she wants to share.
Thanks, Paul. I actually dropped some information and some links into the chat box. And I just wanted to ask you, I have a couple questions. What happens if you threw that white envelope away with your little debit card in it?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, are there any actions you can take if you accidentally threw your white envelope away?
Yeah, I would, what I would do is I would file the return and claim the credits and then if they say, oh, we already paid that out, you can say, well, I never spent it. And they can actually look at that and see that the debit card was never used. Okay,
great. That's wonderful. And then is the refund anticipation loan, the RAL, is that considered predatory lending? That just seems a little questionable.
I mean, most tax preparers do it, even the legitimate ones. It gets predatory when they charge extremely high interest rates or fees and things like that that they shouldn't really be charging. And that's an high interest on the loan. You know, if it takes 4 weeks for the refund to come back to the preparer, they might charge you, I don't know, 25, 30% interest on that.
Okay.
Okay, so basically what happens with those loans is when they say, we're going to loan this money to you, that's all you're going to get. You're probably not going to get anything else later on when the refund comes in. They're going to make sure that they charged you enough interest and fees and everything to make sure that they can take the rest of it.
Yeah.
So you should understand that. I mean, if you do it because you have to, then you have to, but you should understand that you're giving up a chunk of your refund in order to do that.
And then with unemployment, obviously you had mentioned, you know, you'd be taxed on that. And I'm familiar with the whole, you know, 247 being taxed on that amount, but you're going to be taxed on the $600 when they gave you extra money every week?
Yeah,
as
the
well?
enhanced benefits that were given out by the federal government are not tax-free, like the stimulus payments were.
Okay.
I don't think I specifically said that, but I should say that. The stimulus payments, the EIP payments are not taxable income. You do not have to pay tax on that. But unemployment benefits, you do, even if it was the enhanced benefits that you got from the federal government.
And then you'd mentioned that there are actions you can take if you are claimed as a dependent, and let's say like I proved that I didn't live there. What happens to that person that claimed me?
Well, actually, the person that claims you as a dependent does not have to ask your permission to do that if you were otherwise eligible to be claimed. If you did live in somebody's household and they were providing some of your support, they probably have the right to claim you, and they don't have to ask your permission. And you might want to file your own return so they can get more money. But if you actually live with them and you could have been claimed as a dependent, then that's what's going to happen. If it's totally fraudulent, if you didn't live with somebody, again, they don't need to ask you permission, and you can't call the IRS and ask who claimed me. If you don't know who claimed you, they're not going to give you that information, because that is actually confidential information on someone else's return, and they're not going to give you the name of the person that claimed you. So basically, all you can do is file your own return and say, I am head of the household, or I had my own household, I was living by myself, here's my income, here's my address where I lived. And then if the IRS has two returns where someone was claimed as a dependent and another one saying they weren't, they're going to audit probably the second return that comes in, they're going to audit it. But that gives you the opportunity to prove your point and say, here's some letters, here's my lease, here's proof that where I lived in 2020 and it wasn't anywhere else. And if they have that proof, the IRS will then go back to the first one and say, hey, we just got evidence that you falsely claimed a dependent. They'll give that person a chance to give them evidence, but that other person might end up getting in trouble. You'll probably never know about it, but at least you have the chance to prove your point on your return. When you file a return, you're basically making claims, and if they don't believe you, they come back and ask you for proof, and that gives you the opportunity to provide that proof.
Okay, and I think if we have any other questions, just drop them into the chat box. We're monitoring that. I also just wanted to mention the two programs that you had mentioned. The VITA program is available to anyone making less than $56,000 in 2020. And the My Free Taxes is the online program, and it is for anyone that makes under $66,000 in 2020. Now, the VITA program also assists people with disabilities, elderly, and anybody that has limited English speaking. So definitely look into those programs. We have we have a clinic out of our offices, and there's a big mailbox type thing in the front of the building. So I know that it's a secure site. It's, only one person can get in it and everything like that, but definitely take advantage of that, I think, because honestly, I highly doubt anybody in hospitality is going to be exceeding those numbers this year or last year, unfortunately. So it's definitely a free cost savings at the end of the day. Constance, did you have any additional things to add?
Yeah, I wanted to, on the tax issue, I saw some of the questions that I think the majority of Paul's already asked. A lot of people took out federal, but they didn't take out state, and you will be required to pay that. And the easiest way to get your 1099-G is to go through your hire account. And we have seen a lot of 1099-Gs where the numbers aren't accurate. So I want to encourage people to go through their benefit profile and be sure that what they're reporting to the IRS is the actual amount of funds they've gotten, because we've seen human errors where people are claiming that they got way more than they were actually paid by the agency. So I'd encourage you to go through your hire account and go through your 1099-G. And I guess I was going to go through legal aid services if anyone wanted to reach out. And this is something I just like to plug for everyone. online legal directory, free legal aid, modest means, and if you have a quick legal answer that you need a question answered and it's just a simple question, Free Legal Answers is a great resource. And then for legal aid services, I know Paul's already plugged this, but I just wanted to post it in our service area for anyone to see. And there's a general line, and then if you have an unemployment question, that's my office line if anyone needs to call in. So that was all I had, Michelle.
Great. Well, Paul, I have a couple more things that I just want to touch on. You'd answered this separately in a different email, but can you talk about moving your 401k and whether or not you'd be taxed on that, or if you should expect any to claim that or make any statements on your tax returns?
Sure. So 401ks are retirement accounts that you might get set up through your employer. And you contribute money to it, and it's supposed to be used for your retirement, so you're actually not supposed to withdraw anything from it until you're at least 59 and a half years old. That's the when it becomes okay to withdraw money from it. You can withdraw money from it beforehand. If you have an emergency situation, there might be an exemption for you, but a lot of times you'll have to pay a 10% penalty, as well as paying the 10% income tax. So you pay 20% of the money that you take out, you got to pay in tax. And that can be a big tax bill if you empty your 401k. I have a lot of older people that become disabled, and for one reason or another, they might take out the money without really understanding the tax implications. The money you take out of your 401k is taxable income in the year that you took it out. So if you empty out the whole thing, $100,000 or whatever, you're going to owe a lot of tax on that, maybe $20,000.
Great. And I also just wanted to mention, last thing, when I just know that, Paul, you had said that everybody should file their taxes. Some people don't normally do that. Oh.
If you have to, that way you don't have. I'm sorry, you broke up for a second. We're having a
I know, it's storming out.
I just wanted to add quickly that a lot of times when you change employers, you're going to change your 401k too. You're going to or something like that. That's called a rollover. If you take the money out of one account and roll it over into another account, then that's not liquidating it. You don't get the money, so you don't have to pay tax in that situation.
Oh, great. That's really helpful. I think that's going to be a lot of people this year. Last thing is, you'd encourage everybody to file their taxes, even if they don't normally file their taxes. I think that we found that when we were reviewing grants, grant applications, is that we needed their 1040, and they didn't file their taxes, so they didn't have that. So I would also encourage anybody that is hoping to receive a grant to go ahead and file as well, because through one of these free, VITA or the My Free Taxes, because if there's other organizations that are able to give hospitality workers grants, you'd want to be able, that's one of the documents they're going to ask for, so they can see how much you actually made. And I think even if you had unemployment, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but they received a 1099-G, and that would be also stating what they technically made that year, whether they worked or not. And that would go on to their 1040, I'm assuming. So.
Like Constance was saying before, sometimes the employers make mistakes, so you want to check your W-2, your 1099.
I think he froze this time for good. I don't know.
Yeah, the storm's coming down.
I know.
Here. I'm surprised we've made it this far.
I know. I'm pretty impressed too.
Yeah, but like he was saying, and like I said, the 1099-G and your W-2s to check and confirm. I think he's back. He's gone again.
Well, we're going to record this for anybody that joined us a little later in the webinar. We're going to post this on our website. It'll probably be on there tomorrow morning. It is UnitedWay, SELA.org /hospitality cares resources. And we'll have this along with our other webinars, information to get in contact with Constance, as well as Loyola's Counseling and Education Center. So thank you for joining us. And Constance, next month we have another Know Your Right seminar, like spacing it on the date, but it's the same.
The 11th.
It's the 11th again. Okay, so it's March 11th, same time at noon, and we're going to be talking about work protocols. So if you have any questions, you could submit those when you register. And thank you so much, Paul. We got cut off, but I'm glad you're back. We're going to wrap it up unless you have anything else that you wanted to add.
I just wanted to quickly say, a lot of people don't understand this. The W-2 is from an employer who's probably definitely taking Medicare and Social Security taxes out of your paycheck, and also maybe the federal income tax. The 1099 is when you're self-employed, you're a contractor. This is what people issue you when they don't take out any taxes from your pay, which means that you have to report that in the appropriate place on the return, and you also have to pay those extra taxes that were not taken out. People that have their own business or just get 1099 income should be paying estimated taxes 4 times a year, so they don't end up with a huge tax bill at the end of the year when they file their return. And if you go to the IRS website, there's information about paying estimated taxes is what it's called, and you should pay them quarterly. Because if you wait until you file your return, you might find out you have a huge tax bill that you don't have the money to pay for.
Well, that's great advice. I've been a 1099 before, and it can shock you at the end of the year if you don't do quarterly. But well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we will see you on March 11th. Bye, y'all. Thanks for joining us.